Okay, hello everybody. I'm Debbie David, and I used to work at Paramount Studios a lot. That's what my talk is about today. And I decided to divide it up because I'll come in, yeah, please. I got some people who are eating dinner and they're going to come late too, so I said, well, come late. I'm so glad you all took the time to come and hear me too. The show today is my years at Paramount Studios, and on Saturday, tomorrow at 1 p.m., I'm going to talk about my overall life in Hollywood, my life in Hollywood. So get into the other movies and everything that I've been in. But I wanted to concentrate on Paramount because I had so many good days there. And I guess the best way to start into it is about how I got into Paramount Studios. And starting 11 years pretty much working at Paramount every day of production. I mean, of course it was like 13 weeks. It took a week and a half to film an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. And we had $1 million budget for each episode. So back in the 80s, $1 million an episode, you were like, the same thing as working on one of the top movies in town, you know? So the production values, I mean, even little things like our craft service table, we always had deluxe stuff and everything, and you know, they keep the stars happy. And the reason that show probably didn't go beyond 7 seasons was because, you know, Patrick Stewart and Brent Spiner, they were big actors, and you know, they demanded a lot of money. And but now I've heard Patrick might do a little redo of his character of Picard. I'm excited about that. I want them to know that I'm willing to come back anytime they want. So anyway, I worked on a lot of shows and movies at Paramount, and Paramount Studios is the one studio left in the middle of Hollywood that's its own like city within a city. I mean, they had barbers, they had shoe repair, they had their own hardware stores. And if you were working on a movie or something and they wanted to get you something, they'd give you a little voucher and you could go over there and be just like going to Home Depot right on the lot. They had their own prop department, their costume department. While I'm thinking about it, I just mentioned that I remember twice they said, you know, it was one of the episodes was where they're on a train. In Star Trek, there's on a train, and there's a silver knight and everything, and I don't remember the name of the episode, but I was a Western type guy in that scene. And I looked inside my coat, and it said, hand stitched by Edith Head for Van Heflin. I can't remember the movie, but for a movie with Van Heflin. And that happened to me twice where I was wearing a garment that was hand-stitched by Edith Head, you know. So it was so great, little moments like that. Like one time I was at 20th Century Fox and working on a movie, and there was this the oldest studio, we were working in the oldest soundstage there. It was the studio had been, the soundstage had been built in the 20s. And I, for some reason, looked underneath where the urinals were, and I looked up there and it said, Gary Cooper missed here, you know. And it must have been, you know, because it looked like, yeah. So little things like that would happen every day to me in Hollywood. I loved Hollywood so much. If it wasn't so burnt up now, and I could afford to, I'd move back. But maybe someday I'll get back here. Well, anyway, so when I would go to Paramount, I was so happy with it and the history of it and the look of it and the feel of being on the lot. And I would always park in the employee parking area like we had to. And but sometimes when I was doing a bit or I had a special thing, they would let me park on the lot, which was rare but nice. And I would always walk past the employee gate and walk another half a block down the street and turn on Melrose and go through the Gower Gate. And the old Gower Gate is where she pulls up in the car in Sunset Boulevard, and the guard there, and oh yeah, miss you, let her in, you know. I would walk through that gate every day just for that, you know, old Hollywood feel. And so I really loved working at Paramount. And I worked on several shows at Paramount. I was the UPS man in Wings. So if you see a guy in brown shorts delivering a package to the waitress there or whatever, Crystal Bernard, who was, you know, the stars, the bigger they are, usually the nicer they are. But I enjoyed working on Wings. And then Cheers. You see me a lot in Cheers, especially there's this one famous episode that was a Halloween episode. And they had a running thing with the other bar on Halloween that they would trick each other and everything. So this one was, I think the guy's name was Gary that owned the other bar. And Gary was supposed to have died. And Ted Danson's character doesn't believe it. They think it's part of this trick of Halloween. And so that day and working on Cheers was special too, because that's filmed in front of a live audience. So when you get cast even as an extra in that, you go to a reading of the script one day, and then the next day you have a blocking rehearsal, because it's a 3-camera show, and the cameras are actually part of the choreography of the actors moving around and everything. So that's how they get those shots. And the guy, Burroughs, who produces that and everything, he was so smart, so kind to everybody, and he's still doing Will and Grace right now. You know, he's got a mind, that guy. But anyway, so we would be cast in a Cheers, and we would get our wardrobe and everything, and they had trailers. And on the day of filming, you came in for a dress rehearsal in the afternoon. And then they had to get out of your uniforms and go to these trailers and put your clothes there and get back in your street clothes. And you had like a 3-hour break before the filming was going to start. So we would usually go over and watch a taping of the Arsenio Hall while that was going on, and then go back and do the Cheers that night. And Cheers was so much fun because, you know, it's a live show. It's like being in a play. It all happens in one week and everything. And that particular episode about Halloween, there one scene in it where Ted Danson is supposed to look in Gary's coffin to prove that it's really him, and he thinks it's going to be a joke. Well, you have to understand that during that show, Woody Harrelson and Ted Danson had this thing going with each other. And Ted Danson, he was like one of the producers too by that time. And he had a lot of clout on that set. I mean, anything he said would go. And so, but Ted would get mad at Woody Harrelson because he would not know his lines enough. And that would drive Ted crazy. So, we're filming this Halloween episode, and Woody Harrelson during the morning rehearsal says, "Hey, I got a bet with you tonight." And Ted says, "What's that?" He goes, $100 for the first person who goes up on his lines tonight. And Ted said, I'll take that bet, right? Then in the afternoon, Woody Harrelson comes over to me, and I'm sitting by this gorgeous model girl. Now, a lot of people knew that I was married then, and I'm always a nice person. And so a lot of times these girls that were knocked out and had been hired for their looks specifically would ask me to sit by them with their chairs so that the other extras wouldn't be hitting on them all day, you know? So I was sitting by this gorgeous girl, and we were talking about her life, and her husband was a fireman in LA. And we were talking about that. And so I went over to get something at the craft service table, and Woody Harrelson, who kind of knew me because we're both from Kentucky, we were both and we had talked about that. He said, "Hey, you know that girl?" And I said, "Well, not really, but a little bit. You know, I've been talking to her." He said, "Ask her if she'll do something for me. I'll pay her $500 if she'll take off all her clothes and get in the casket." so that he'll go up on his lines. And I said, well, you know, I'll ask her. So I said, no, I think, and the girl was like, is he serious? And I said, yeah, I really believe he's serious. She goes, 500 cash just to do that. And I said, yeah. And he said, he promised nobody's going to see you but Ted. The casket was facing, so when he opened the lid, the audience couldn't see in and everything. And so she called her husband. Her husband said, yeah, do it. You know? And so here we're actually filming in front of the live audience. And that's kind of why Cheers is so fun to watch. You wouldn't notice, but subliminally, when you film in front of a live audience and you get that real laughter in the moment of the actress being right there, it's just a different life, you know, than the canned laughter of these cheap shows like Bob Saget's show or something where they put the laughs in. It's a total different feeling. But anyway, so Ted walks up to the casket to open this casket. And he opens it and he looks down there and he goes up on his lines and he stops, he's turned. Because, you know, they don't like to do retakes on Cheers. They wanted the live thing, you know. And he stops, and he looks over at Woody and he laughs. So Woody paid $500 to win a $100 bet. I love Woody Harrelson for that. And then there was other things in Cheers that was fun. But so one day I'm working on a John Ritter movie of the week, and it's in the scene. John Ritter's is a big wedding at this mansion in Beverly Hills, and I was one of the groomsmen. In the scene, and one of the other groomsmen was sitting there, and we were talking, and he said, "Oh, I've been working on this new show, Star Trek: The Next Generation." "Oh yeah, how'd you get on that?" "Oh, it's Andy at Central Casting. He cast that." "Oh yeah." So I put it in my mind right then. Now the show had just come on, so they were still filming the first season then. And my friends, this is back when a VCR was $1,000, you know, when they first came out. And I had one, and my friends didn't have one yet. So I would tape Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then they would come over one day and we would play chess and cards, and then we would watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. So they were really like it. And I remember sitting there one day after this guy had told me that Andy at Central, and I was thinking, I didn't say anything to my friends, I'm gonna get on that show, just to show. So I go down to Central Casting on a visiting day, and I wait in the line, and I get up to Andy's desk, and he goes, hey, he knew me, because he'd been casting me and stuff. He knew I was reliable and everything like that. And I said, hey, Andy, get me on Star Trek. Oh, no, that can't happen. Every extra in Star Trek has their own uniform with their name in it. They were cast from pictures, and then they had to go to an audition, and then they got picked as crew members, and they don't want any more. And I said, well, you know, when they need one, will you send me in for that? No, I can't do it. Right then, this guy came in, a messenger, and he said, they want this something, something on the set. So Andy got on the phone, and said, okay. Then he yells out into the other secretaries in the room, I need a courier to go down to Hollywood and take some pictures down to the casting office. So I said, oh, I'm going to Hollywood, Andy. I'll be glad to take it. I wasn't, but you know. Yeah. So I said, I'll take the pictures. Well, how much do you want for it? I said, no, nothing. I'm going there anyway. I want to do you a favor, because you owe me a favor. He said, okay. So I took the pictures down to Hollywood. I put one of my pictures in with the casting thing. Didn't come about, but you know, got to take the chance every chance you can. So I delivered the pictures for him. And the next visiting day, I went back and I reminded him. I said, hey, you know those pictures, they got their, you know, everything right? And he said, yeah, what do you want? I said, put me on Star Trek. And he said, okay, if they ask for something. And sure enough, I get his call, come down for a fitting. They interview me, they like me, they say, oh yeah, you'll be fine, and everything. And you could lose a little weight, they said. And then I came in for an orientation. They taught us how to seem like we were on a ship when we walked. And you're supposed to walk like it's slightly lighter, because the gravity on the ship is slightly lighter than Earth's gravity and things like that. And you don't shake hands, you don't salute and things like that. They taught us the Star Trek protocols and some of the Navy terms that they use and things like that. So I went to that, and then I go to fitting, and they fit you in a Star Trek uniform, and I got a gold uniform, and I was thinking, oh good, I'm not a red shirt, I'll be okay. And so I got my uniform. Now the uniforms were very uncomfortable for the extras, because they're polyester and it's kind of a stretchy material. But the thing that kills you is there's this elastic strap that goes underneath from the bell bottom, like bottom of the pants, that goes underneath your foot. You put that on over your sock and then put it into the boot. And that's just to keep the thing tight and the elastic, so there's no wrinkles or anything, and it makes everybody look a cleaner look. Well, that elastic, it starts hurting you like 10 minutes later, and by a half hour, you're screaming. And we also had to wear these girdles, like Spanx, early Spanx, before there were Spanx, that pulled up, to keep everybody looking like that. But I would sneak off and take off the boot and pull the strap off, and then, because I couldn't stand that. Later, when I started doing another job at Star Trek, I'll get into it in a minute, I got one of the Stars uniforms. And they're two-piece, and they're fitted like a tailored suit, and those are really nice and comfortable to wear. So I looked like the Stars in all my Ensign Russell stuff. Anyway, I go on the set, and I'm just doing background at first, and I loved being on Star Trek. And I got a good shot early on in like one of the first of the second season shows. I got a really good, where you see me good. And so we tape it, and my friends come over to watch that week. I don't say anything. And the scene goes by, and it goes to the commercial, and I was disappointed. I said, I want to see something, wait. And so I back the tape up, and then that scene plays again. I go, who is that guy? And they're going, oh, it's you! They couldn't believe it. They were floored by that. So it was fun doing that, and I thought, well, didn't think that much of it and everything. And by the end of the second season, I'd been on it maybe 5 times, and they knew my name there. I was feeling happy and everything. And one day I'm talking to, now you know what stand-ins are. Every star has a stand-in, and they're called the second team. So you'll go to the rehearsal, and the stars will be there, and they'll do a run through the scene, and the cameraman and the director will talk. They'll figure out the shots and everything. They want to get the scene and everything. And then they'll call second team. So then we all come in, and the stars go to their trailers or their makeup or whatever they have to do to get ready to film. And then we stand on there, and they put down the marks with us. They put down little pieces of tape on the bridge or wherever we're filming. And then we'll walk the scene while they set the lights, and they set the cameras, and they do the shots and everything. So this is why it's hard for me to remember what show I'm seen in and what shows I just was working as Brent's stand-in, which I'm getting ready to tell you about. So anyway, one day I'm just doing background, and I'm talking to Brent Spiner's stand-in, this guy named Spike, and he's saying he was going to quit doing the stand-in and he was going to go teach a acting class in Rochester, New York. And I said, oh, wow. Who's your replacement? Oh, they've had auditions for that. It's done. Okay. About a week later, I'm back on the show, and I see this line of people going into the stage 9. Stage 8 and stage 9, the entranceways are in the same hallway. And stage 8 is where the bridge was, the quarters for the crew, and everything like that. The stage 9 was where the transporter room was, the medical sick bay and all that. And so I saw all this line of young guys walking into stage 9. And I asked Arlene, who was assistant, production assistant. I said, what's going on over there? They said, oh, they're having auditions for Brent Spiner's stand-in. He wants to pick him himself. So I said, oh, yeah. So I was in my Star Trek uniform, and in my gold uniform. And which, by luck, and this really changed my life, getting this gig. I was in a gold uniform like Brent. Well, I did what they did in The Wizard of Oz. Like, you know, when the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion, they get behind those guards, they're going in the Witcher Castle, and they just get in the back of the line. I did that with these extras. And I'm standing there. So I'm standing at the end of the line, you know, when we get in the room. And then we all fan out into the semicircle. And Adele Simmons, who was the assistant director, she, on a lot of the shows, she looked over and she saw me and she goes, what are you doing here? And I said, oh, I want to be Brent stand-in. She goes, you're not supposed to be in here. Okay, just stay there, because Brent was coming in right there. So Brent goes down the line, he says hi to everybody. He sees me, and we had talked a couple of times, maybe at the craft service table, and I had laughed at his jokes, and I saw him look at me appreciatively a couple of times. He goes, and he walks away, and Adele and him are over talking in the corner. And then Brent turns to the room and goes, anybody but him. And I went, I like that. And so Adele, and then she said, okay, you're dismissed. And then she walks up to me and she goes, I don't care what he said. Now, I don't know if this was set up by Brent and he really gave it to me, or Brent was just teasing me or what. I never found out. I never asked him, but I got picked as a stand-in. So that really changed my life, because you can actually, you know, I mean, as an extra, it's a real hustle to make a living. I mean, you know, that's why you say, I'm an actor. Well, what restaurant do you wait tables at? You know, that's a standard line. But I was able to hustle enough movie parts and extra work that I was getting by, and I was doing pretty good. But this stand-in thing, oh, it was like a golden thing, because, you know, you work every day of production, and since I was already a uniformed and character, I could work on a scene that Brent was in, stand in for him, and then when Brent went home, I could be in another scene in another part of the ship or something like that. So I got to do double duty, and I got bonuses for that.